Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the full moon edition of Tarot for Our Times. And this has been a real full moon day between the Gaza thing and now there's a whole big thing with Ukraine that apparently that FOTUS wants them to just give off land to Russia because he spoke to his good buddy Putin today. So it's all one big horrible thing. And I've been watching a number of readers today about it. I just listened to a very good video by Lena Rodriguez and saying, she really calls it like it is, and that we really have to look at reality and start standing up and doing something about this. Now, something that's, I want to take a different slant on this, and I do love to travel. And up until COVID, I was going abroad to study mediumship at Arthur Findlay and the Zwanenhof in the Netherlands and all that sort of good stuff. But I'm thinking about the reality of traveling abroad from a country where the whole world absolutely is despising us now. Now, ordinarily, I might have done separate readings, like for one for Canada, another for Mexico, another for Europe, but I think no, we can put them all in one. We can just put them all in one thing because they feel equally. They may express it a little bit different culturally, but it's all the same. It's all the same thing. And as you can see from the thumbnail, it is the the full moon, and I think and this is a very intense one in Leo. So I think that what's going on is that emotions are really running high. But I'm going to say maybe the way the sun shines its light on the moon, it's like the light is being shown. We really can't ignore this, and especially I have to do a special shout out to my own community that many of whom would just pretend to prefer, oh, I don't like politics, boring. Okay, so so we have the full moon here, and it's I picked the one from this deck. It's very interesting because you can see that the moon is is crying, and I would say that's the female figure. The male figure, which would be the sun, which is hidden behind the moon, so the face is dark. He just looks plain old freaked out. So this is very interesting because the crab, which is the lower end of the gene pool and evolution, is he's having a hard time of getting out of that water and that going up the path. And usually the two dogs, the feral and the tame, you really have to look for them in this deck because they're just about hidden in whatever the growth is in the bushes and whatever. But you can see them, and they're pretty much dwarfed by everything. Especially they're dwarfed by the lower end of the gene pool here. But those columns of enlightenment are really out there. They're right. I feel like you can touch them. They're more prominent than they are in the other decks. And what that tells me is that there's something that we can do about stuff. I mean, there's all the stuff to do about the phone numbers and the emails and all that sort of thing, or take care of yourself. Like today I had bright colors put in my hair, just these little things that you can do to cope. So I want to see, I want the cards to show me what it's going to be like traveling. And I'm going to say that there may be a number of people who thought they were going to go to Europe this summer, probably may not be able to, or cut their trip short because things cost a lot over there too. They cost a lot here. And for first of all, getting on a plane, I don't know about that. So people will be probably think, oh well, Canada and Mexico, but I'm telling you, they are so angry at us but I mean, they intellectually know that only about a third of the country really voted for this awful thing that we're going through now. But I just want to see how Americans will be treated. And it could just be an afternoon trip, like driving from Buffalo to Niagara Falls. I mean, it can be as little as that. And some of those both the Canadian customs and the American customs can be pretty rude, but this is going to be something else. And once you get over there. So first I want to see how Americans are going to be treated and their attitude. And also from my video yesterday, I did talk about the possibilities of terrorism because of the really stupid thing in the Middle East between Bibi and the orange jerk. I mean, don't you just want to bang both of their heads together or hope they go away or something? Okay, so let's see how Americans are going to be treated no matter where they go. So let's put this down a bit. Woo, okay. So, how it stands. The Three of Pentacles in reverse. I'm going to say that to me this is a card of negotiations, even though the other people that are usually in this card they're kind of like off camera. And I'm going to say that there are going to be a lot of things that are just non-negotiable. And the Pentacles tell me that they just might be raising prices just in spite. I mean, why not? I would if if the situation were reversed. So there's not going to be too much of a money break for. I mean, even going over to Canada for the afternoon or Mexico if you live in, which I used to do a lot when I lived in Southern California. That it's not going to be the big bargain, and people will not be like in Mexico. You could bargain with people about. No, they won't be. They'll say, it's this, and that's it. Okay, so this is crossed with the energy of the King of Cups. And I'm going to say that this is going to be about people from the U.S. really going to have to be as nice as and tolerant as possible. There can't be and I used to run away from these people in other countries, that they were just, no complaining like they don't make this like they do in the States, this and that. It's going to be, you're going to have to be very nice and diplomatic if you go. And I remember the joke when he had the first term back in 2017, like, if you're an American, be sure to wear your Canadian t-shirt, that kind of stuff. And just don't act like an American. Now it's going to be that on steroids. So let's see, the underlying thing is, well, of course, the Tower in reverse. It's going to be the little things, not the big catastrophic things, but the little things that are just going to probably be getting under people's skin, that things like hotel reservations and all kinds of stuff that'll be getting met, or the tour thing you were going to go, all the stuff that's going to get messed up, and the Hierophant in reverse, which is telling me that the institutes of the embassies overseas, if there are any left, are not going to be of much help either. It's just like, you better have your stuff together. I don't even see that it's going to be very pleasant to do that. Okay, and then here we have Justice. I think that one of those that this hadn't occurred to me, but I think what Justice is saying here is that you're going to have to be really, really, really aware of their laws over there. Now, I know that I remember when years ago when I was in, it was 30 years ago. I can't believe this time. I was in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, and I was going around with an American expat, and the way they make left turns, you have to do it from the far lane. They did it wasn't like the British driving, like everything's flipped, but it was all these very strange ways that you need to turn. And that she knew it because she'd been living there for like 10 years or whatever. But it's like just simple things like the way you drive that will be scrutinized. And if they smell gringo, you know those cops are going to be on you and expecting bribes and all kinds of stuff to get out of the tickets. So I'm going to say that you don't want to get into trouble. And, it's, to me, that just doesn't sound like much of a vacation. And in Canada, you got to know this stuff. And in Europe, all these things that they may have ignored before, like maybe throwing litter in the street. I mean, you've got to watch everything and really know. And really, I would say probably because people love to go to Mexico to get really drunk. I thought it was rather obnoxious, but that's what they like to do. I would say be really, really, really careful about that too. So then opposing this is the Chariot moving forward. So I'm going to say this is about how this whole thing is just going to continue. So in order to not make this video incredibly long, I will say, okay, in the past, got the Four of Cups in reverse. I would say that Americans are not really great. I mean, I hate to make a broad generalization, but a lot of Americans just don't travel very well to other countries because they just think that everything we have is so great, which it isn't. And in that way, they fail to see the joys of being in a different culture. So we've got that. And the past is important because these are, I mean, if you have to go, maybe some people are going for work or school or whatever, but you have to be careful. And the Eight of Pentacles is saying you're going to have to redo your budget for a lot of these places because they're just going to be into ripping you off. And I would say Mexico would be a place where that, and with the language barrier and all of that, it might be not a bad. I used to always brush up on my Spanish intensively before going to Mexico, but I'm going to say, language skills and that sort of thing, just be prepared with more money. Okay. Because, whatever you thought in the past that was enough may not be. Okay, so we're going to do the conscious thoughts of what they think is that they're seeing Americans, because of our leader and our immigrant co-leader, is that they just think we're just out to grab all the goodies from the world. And you can see the figures, right? The figures in the background are alienated. They're walking away, and that's the countries in the world, because they think we're just a bunch of grabber taker types of things. And the subconscious thing is the Page of Swords. So I'm going to say that there's kind of like all of this, I think, because of the insecurity of the world right now, and who knows what's going to be happening to NATO over the summer, that they're going to be the subconscious thing. Then it could have been going on for decades, is that they're thinking that maybe looking at the spy element and the not trustworthiness, and that Americans are very kind of like immature and not communicative. So this is telling us that this is really the mindset. So traveling in the now, what is that going to be? That's going to be the hangman in reverse. So when this fellow is uprise, it's stopping and taking stock and realizing there is another point of view. If you go over, like so many Americans do, to other countries, they just want to see things the way they want to see them, and they're not willing to develop that. And that's going to be really bad if you don't change your way of thinking and realize maybe you need to view things through another culture, through another way. So we've got the hangman in reverse. And then we have the Knight of Swords in reverse. So that's it's going to be like you're going to have to be really, really careful what you say. I would say that the Trumpanzee set may have to worry a little bit more, but I'm going to say that they're not going, if walking down the street, they're not going to be able to tell if you're progressive or a Trumpster unless you're really, really stupid enough to wear one of those hats. I guess people will be. So you're going to have to watch how you communicate with people and be a little bit more diplomatic, because Americans are not, no, they just like, and it's like being loud and running your mouth off too, which is what they say and the thing is that if the unsavory people sense that you're a tourist, especially an American, you are such a target for the little scams. So you better watch all those old videos about the mustard on the collar and the wallet on the street, all of that stuff. Get familiar with the regular scams. Okay, so hopes and fears about how being treated. We've got the Seven of Swords here in reverse. So it's kind of like the days of you're just going to go out and conquer the world, which is kind of like how they see us. That's really over. So it's this again. This is like treading very carefully, and I hate to say it, and not to come across as an American, if you can. I mean, not obviously, like, leave the fanny packs and leave the baseball hats, especially worn backwards. Leave those at home, because nothing says pickpocket, come and get me, like the typical American stuff that they wear. So learn how to not stick out so much, because it's going to be so much worse now than it has been in the past. So I'm really coming around to saying that the way things stand, you may want to think really, really twice about especially going overseas, and to be even more careful in Canada and Mexico and South America too. So how is it going to be in the future? Like this summer, we have the Knight of Cups in reverse. So that's telling me Cups in reverse is really watch your alcohol intake and do not be acting like a young jerky frat boy. Even in Mexico, when you go on the booze cruises and stuff, because they kind of encourage that, I would say in the immediate future, this is not the vacation. If you're going to do that, stay home, really. And the Four of Pentacles is watch your money. Just watch your money. Be very wary about keeping it in back, because it could just go floating away. about keeping it in backpacks, or just don't be careless, and to be very yeah, you're going to really have to be on your guard with the money and hang on a little bit tighter. So let us see what the outcome of this is. Anything that has to do with Fotis and now the muskrat, the devil in one way or another comes up. And this is kind of interesting because I'm going to say this just about, it's kind of like the perfect segue into the part 2 of the reading, which is the dangers ahead. And I'm going to say that, and this is especially a warning. I'm going to say that those that have addictions and are traveling really need to watch out, because I'm going to say, if you're caught with any kind of drugs or anything like that, they're going to really toss the key away for sure. But I'm going to say that this is also, in the devil in reverse is the devil, in this reading, it's the devil on steroids. And since it's the hot devil, there are going to be some things that maybe you get lured into a little easier since you're away, that you wouldn't hear, that could really, really lead to trouble. So what this is saying is to beware of maybe like overly friendly people, because I'm going to say that the animosity is going to be tremendous. Maybe meeting people on an individual basis. This may not be that bad, or if you already have friends over there, but it's kind of like, be careful of strangers, because there's some ignorant people in these countries who now they see that since we're weakened, that it's so much easier to take advantage of us. So we've got that. So I do want to go into the dangers, because I'm feeling as though, especially in Europe and the United States, there could be acts of terrorism. I would say that maybe in Mexico, although she's kind of, I would say Sheinbaum is probably putting in a lot of reforms to keep one of the drug dealing stuff in check a little bit, because that's real, and with the corrupt police and all of that. So those are kind of like the terroristic dangers in Mexico, is the drug stuff. And especially around you might want to not stay in the border towns too much. Tijuana, if you stay in the nice pristine part of town, you're kind of okay, but you don't want to be walking around any dark alleys or any of that sort of thing. Okay, and if there's stuff that's off limits for the military, you might want to consider making that off limits for yourself. So okay, so we're going to look at the dangers. I only started to touch on that, but the devil is saying, okay, now we're ready for the dangers. And I do get a sense that if things fire up in the Middle East, and when you have two very ignorant leaders, the ones in Israel and the United States, that's a real, that's they're going to do stupid things. I think I agree with the other readers who say they see that the hostages are likely to be released in dribs and drabs, but Bibi he's got this trigger finger, and he's not going to get any opposition from the felon like he did from Biden. He knows that he wanted Trump to win. So okay, so let's see what dangers lurk, and maybe we're going go beyond the pickpockets and the other scams. The bird poop on the collar while they pick your pocket, or all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at that and see what happens, what dangers lurk for the American tourist. I'm going to say probably more in Europe than in Canada. Okay, so we have the eight of swords in reverse. I'm going to say that with this that it's very important that you don't, if you have to travel abroad, I'm starting to not really recommend it for a while. That instead don't get into this whole pity thing about everybody hates Americans, because you're going to find that right away. I would say be very, very careful you don't fall into that trap and set yourself up as the victim, which is this is the victim card. So what this is saying is that to take a stronger attitude since it's in reverse, but to take the blindfold off and be alert and be aware, because there could be, I would say, places. France is always such a magnet for terrorists, but I'm kind of seeing them in the UK, and because of their government isn't the hottest either right now. And I don't know, I'm thinking Germany. It's just like all over Europe, but I kind of zero in on France a little bit. And it's not just Paris, but it's places where the Riviera. I mean, they had something in Nice a few years back. So, okay, so this is crossed with the energy of the Nine of Cups. But at the same time, don't get yourself too complacent either. I mean, she's just lying there and just having a great time and kind of spaced out. I'd say, no, you can't do that. You've got to be alert, but don't set yourself up as the victim of this whole thing either. So let's see, we're looking at, here we go. The Three of Pentacles. Yeah, that is the card of the artisan and the clients. And I would say to be careful where you get your stuff. I'm telling you, they're really going to be out to rip off Americans. I hate to say it. I never felt like this before, but and this is another thing of. This is also telling me that. As I go a little deeper into this, because there is art, I would say be especially very alert at the big cathedrals and the museums. There, I have a feeling something could be happening in places like this. So be very, very careful. Okay, the Eight of Wands in reverse is kind of there's a lot of. This is about a lot of action, but when I see it in reverse, it's just in suspended animation. So I'm going to look at this as kind of like the calm before the storm. If one thing a place to be vigilant is if you're in an area that's kind of busy and all of a sudden things seem to be quiet or at a standstill. Be super vigilant and very alert, because I get a sense that that's the quiet before something happens. And the Nine of Cups is it's kind of like losing the smugness, that every place is stayed safe. It is going out of the comfort zone. I always look at this in reverse as going out of the comfort zone. So, okay, so let's see, we have in, we have the Queen of Swords. So, yeah, I would say that the whole thing is to just it's kind of like being calm and vigilant, and she's got a lot of authority, but she doesn't swing that sword, but she's got it ready to say, I'm not going to be victimized. And she's very bright, and I would say that's the energy that people need to enjoy yourself, but to to like don't walk around like a victim or be anybody's fool, and to be very hyper alert to what is communicated. So okay, so just a little bit in the past, we have the Star. And to me, this is about it is the blending of the elements of intuition and the earthly sort of thing. It is a card for the United States too. So as an American, um, it's always been a good idea that when you travel abroad, that you have your material stuff, your money in the place where the pickpockets can't get it, but to also have that sense, that hyper awareness of things that could happen. So I would say to those that have traveled in the past that have developed that skill, which I consider myself to have done that. I've only been pickpocketed in the United States because I've been a little less careless here than I am traveling in other countries. So I'm going to say that what you learned from that in the past, turn it up a notch or two. And then we have I would say that from past experiences and knowing what could happen in the past will be probably what we're going through now. And the world is not going to love us anymore when spring and summer and traveling season. So you might want to seriously make a decision as to whether this is the best time to do this, because I am picking up a sense that if people wise up and show a very, very strong sense of resistance, that in 26 we could be seeing something different altogether. So, but I would say there is a decision to be made, and I would say that don't think it too much. If you feel in your gut not a good idea, even if you lose some deposit money and that sort of thing, that maybe it's worth it. And to be aware of, to help you make the decision, see if there has been chatter or some sort of acts of terrorism that's in the air. Forget things get really bad in the Middle East, and that's like, duh, So here we have, okay. What's going on is that in the now, the traveling, it's strength in reverse. You're not going to be in a position of strength, and you're just going to have to realize that. And if anything should happen, and I don't mean to be grim, but this is the world we live in. If there should be a Middle Eastern type act of terrorism, your being American is really, really not going to be very good for you, because that's, if they take hostages, guess who's high on the hit parade for that? Then we have the Nine of Swords. I would say, instead of worrying and covering your face and hiding your head in the sand, just be extra vigilant. Like, that's what we should be, what we should be doing now. And in looking at this thing, it's like, yeah, they're doing a coup, and we just cannot bury our heads in the sand anymore. So and there will be a certain amount of worry, but the way to kind of counteract that is to go into action. So see what's going on locally, but I would say that if you take care of that at home, you should travel if you have to, and you're extra vigilant, and you get a sense that, oh, there's something over there that doesn't feel good, then don't worry, just don't go over there. So let's see, in the immediate future, here we have, it's the moon. So this is very intense energy. I'm going to say an energy is going to be super duper intense, and wherever you go, it's like really be very in tune with your feelings, and know that they're just not seeing us very high on the evolutionary scale. So I would say I think the energy will be very intense at travel time. And so just be aware of that as we go a little bit more into the future. Here we go. And this is like, all of this is because of the idiots that voted for what we have now. And here we are, knowing that wherever we go, that is going to be the big thing in the middle of the road, in the middle of the trains, that we are, this is like, you think you're going to get away, you take him with you. You absolutely take him with you wherever you go, and understand that it's a good idea to tell people you did not vote for him, but at the same time, they know you're American, and they know that he is the invisible force that's hanging around you. It just doesn't sound, and that also that this could be the sign of, when the devil comes in too, that it's like you're just a bigger target for any disaster that could be coming up, or if there's something of a fight or criminal stuff going on, then hey, Americans, it's all your fault. Okay, because it's our fault for a lot of stuff now. So this is what you can be, and believe me, you're going to be dragging him wherever you go, and that makes things more dangerous. So the Eight of Cups is saying, just walk wherever you see it. Just walk away from trouble. It's going to be a very emotionally packed. The moon keeps coming up. I'm going to say during the full moon, whenever you're traveling, be even more careful. And what this also may say is that in looking at all of this sort of thing, just say that to walk away from it, this may not be the year for it, because I will say that I feel as though in the spring, if there's a terrorist attack, take that to mean as that is the canary in the coal mine of what you may not want to be walking into, because if there's one, it will set off a change reaction. And I have to say this, we're going to have to worry about that enough as it is here without being in another country. Even if it is only, the border countries and countries that are in the Bahamas and that sort of thing, because those are different cultures. So those are, you've got Dutch and you've got French and Spanish cultures that, have lived on through the centuries in those islands. And so you have to be really aware of that. So to do a concluding thing, what I want to do is I want to pick an oracle card. Let's see if I can find if there's a message. I just want to see if there's a message to conclude with this. But I'm a big traveler, but to be quite honest, even if I hit the lottery tomorrow, if I'm going to go to another country, I would stay. It would not be going as a tourist. Okay, so let's see. We have here as our message, freedom. I think the big message here is that freedom is something we have taken for granted an awful lot. And now we're at a kind of strange part of our history. And I would say in the terms of traveling to other countries, and I would say you want to go to the democratic countries, that you do have a certain amount of freedom, but you do have to keep it in check. And I'm seeing her with the dove here. That you've got to do whatever you can to kind of keep the peace with people. And it's like it's about not getting into arguments like, don't be an American with the hotel clerk or the restaurants. You can very nicely and assertively say that you think the check is wrong and it must be an error. So it's like, do whatever you, don't be a doormat, but do whatever you can to keep the peace, because that's where then you'll find that you have a lot more freedom. But I would say that's something that you need to examine and, like but definitely keep your own house in order. So I would say that probably tourism isn't going to be that pleasant, but I would say that sometimes people have to go over there, and I would say that maybe even the expats are having to be, if they're in their own little community and people know them, they've had to do a lot of explaining. And I'll tell you, the ones that were very open about voting for what we have now, I wouldn't want to be them, because what they'll say is, oh, here you are, you're here and you're getting the health care and you're getting this and that, and yet you voted for people back, your own country people, for a person that doesn't even give it to them in the first place, but will be taking even more away. And I would say that hearing the story that Dr. Lena just told on her latest thing is the 22-year-old guy who died because he couldn't get his inhaler because he went to Walgreens and it cost $500. So if you did that, you voted for that. So this is what our healthcare system is. It could turn into an absolute nightmare. So I would say that the expats community, there will be some resentment if they're hypocrites like that. So it's coming on all different levels, but the world is really angry with us, and maybe what we need to do is to get our own house in order, because the ugly American is kind of like in this energy of being left. He thinks he's taken all the goodies, but then the rest of the world has rejected him, and being judged very badly, and there's a great sense of loss. And I would say, which I forgot to say in the beginning, is that I would say traveling abroad could bring across a triple header tower situation if you're not careful. So right now, I could be wrong, but right now I'm feeling as though with every horrible foreign policy coming out is that they're going to lump us all together. So at any rate, continue to be writing to people, calling people. If you're going to be out in the streets like people were at Senator McCormick's office in Scranton the other day, they were peaceful. Just be peaceful. But we need to really raise our voices. So at any rate, have a pleasant one, everyone, and I will see you soon. Bye.